anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes.
To our favorite shows.
Oh my circuits!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Pearson and Blursball.
Futurama.
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting Premier Podcast TV Party tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is Looney Tunes Cartoons, brought to you by the good people at Warner Brothers, Looney Tunes, and HBO Max. This is Season 1D, which dropped April 29th, 2021, and featured the returns of Pete Puma, Petunia Pig, who in this iteration is channeling Elmira, and from the Tiny Toons cartoons, and most importantly, the historic return of the gremlin, who we haven't seen since he took apart one of those World War II planes while Bugs Bunny was in it.
Well, technically, he actually did appear in a Tiny Toons commercial or a Tiny Toons cartoon, I'm sorry, not commercial, where they established that the center of the earth is made of pure gold, and if anyone is to steal it, then the gremlins will just basically cause earthquakes like crazy.
Making his return to the Looney Tunes proper, the gremlin. And joining me to make all the corrections and give all the facts, ladies and gentlemen, the historian of animation herself and the owner and CEO of Honeysuckle Rose Creations, Alexis Hejna. How do you do, madam?
I am doing well. I am happy to be back.
All right. So you just watched these last night, and we'll just jump right into this. We are continuing with the slew of 60-some-odd cartoons that they had prepared for this first season that they broke up into chunks. We did the first season. We skipped over the Christmas special. We reviewed the second part, which was Season 1C, which dropped on January 21st, and now here we are. The first block of cartoons was Puma Problems, where Pete Puma once again tries to trick Bugs so he can eat him. And then we had the mid-tier, the mid-show short, which is Bowling Ball, and then Duplicate Daffy. So I'll go to you first here. What happens in Puma Problems?
Well, it's a little surreal because Pete Puma was voiced by the late, great Stan Freberg, one of the last remaining classic voice actors. He and June Foray, I would say, lived longer than most of the other actors, rest in peace Mel Blanc and Daws Butler. And I think this is the first time we have heard Pete Puma voiced by another actor.
I thought I thought he got as close to what I remember Pete Puma sounding like as one can get. I mean, as long as you're doing the right, then you're good to go.
Yeah, it's more like the kind of a thing. He does that really. I think I pulled something when I did that.
He sounds like Roscoe Pico Train from the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, but no, Pete Puma is so much fun, especially considering the fact that he only made one appearance technically in the classic Looney Tunes shorts, Rabbitskin, directed by Bob McKimson, which is a favorite of so many people, and it's so much fun that Pete Puma built up such a following, and that's the only real appearance he made.
Really?
He was in the later.
He doesn't have more than just that one.
Huh?
He doesn't have more than just that one?
Nope. He made they did one other cartoon where they had him up against Foghorn Leghorn that came out in the, I want to say maybe late 90s, early 2000s. And again, he also made an appearance in a few episodes of Tiny Toons. Pete Puma was the janitor at Acme University. And those times he was, again, voiced by Stan Freberg.
Huh.
So yeah, he's...
How about a cigar? Sorry, I'm done now.
How many lumps do you want?
3 or 4. I love that.
Who doesn't love that? That's a classic cartoon.
So
have you ever actually watched it with the audio slowed down so you can hear what Shorty is saying?
No.
Somebody made a clip of that, and it's hilarious because it's just Mel Blanc screaming, and it's obviously sped up like crazy. And you get to the one where Pete Puma's pretending to be Shorty's mother, and he actually says, "No, he's not my mother. He's not even my aunt."
Nice.
Yeah, again, it's like you can't make that out with him, with the voice that sped up, but it's freaking hilarious.
All right, so I thought this one was funny. I thought we were off to a good start with Pete Puma. I'm kind of looking at some of the stills from this season, and there's the bit where he's giving him different instruments. Pete Puma has decided he's going to Pied Piper Bugs Bunny, to death, and Bugs is like, "Well, that's not going to work. Here, try this instrument and try this one." And so the still, the famous still that's been going around is he's got the violin, and Bugs hands him a saw, and he cuts off his own arm.
The one that made me laugh the hardest is when he starts playing the trombone, and Bugs just sort of slides out of the trombone.
Yeah, it's another good one.
That is really... That one genuinely made me laugh hard. I was like,
yeah.
Okay, this is good.
Yeah, I have to agree. When he slides out of the trombone, I laugh pretty hard at that, too. So I thought this was a good return for Pete Puma. I thought they... we talked about in previous seasons that sometimes they don't do the best job of capturing what was funny about the original, and sometimes they do. I thought in this particular case, they got Pete Puma pretty dead on. The only thing... And it's hard because, you go see a band, you want the band to play the hits. And, and so, I wanted them to do the "How many lumps do you want?" because that's so funny to me, and, and it's such a famous Pete Puma thing. We just did it. But, they were trying some new things with him, and I think it ultimately worked.
I agree. This is one of the few times where they decided to try something new, but they kept it in the vein of the classic character, and it really worked. We've talked before about how we've seen some characters appear on these new Looney Tunes shows, and we're like, well, I don't think they really got what made those characters so funny, But this one, yeah, whoever wrote this one really knew how to work with Pete Puma.
Yeah, agreed. The next one is Bowling Ball, and Marvin's trying to plant his flag. Turns out he can't because, as it turns out, he's trying to plant it on a planet-sized bowling ball. And what is it? A constellation kind of comes to life and grabs the ball and then bowls in space.
More or less. We'll get to it when we'll get to that short. We'll get to the other short later. But a little spoiler ahead. I am so glad they finally put Marvin in a full-length short against Bugs again. He needed that.
Yes, much to my daughter's chagrin.
We'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah. And the third part of this collection of 3 is Duplicate Daffy. I vaguely remember what happens here. Refresh my memory.
Porky and Daffy are working in an office setting, and Porky asks Daffy
the copy machine one. Okay.
Yeah. To which Daffy then breaks the copy machine, making copies of himself, because have we ever had a cartoon where a character is told to go use a copy machine and they don't lie down on the copy machine and start making copies of their body or body parts? I mean, I'm starting to think that's like a law in animation.
I mean, who hasn't wanted to take a photocopy of some random part of their body? I mean, really.
Admit it, everyone has at least put their hand on the copy machine and then hit the button.
Absolutely.
We've all done that, at least that.
So I think this was another one where, at the end of it, it's like, what's the problem here? What's going on? And Daffy, tries to blame it on Porky. He's like, Porky did it. And Porky's like, what? I have to say, they lean heavily on the Porky-Daffy Duck combination, more so than I think they ever really did in cartoons past. Daffy Duck had a lot of solo stuff. He wasn't, I don't think in the golden age of Looney Tunes cartoons he was with Porky as much as they've made him with in this series of cartoons. Which is fine, but it's just a weird choice to me.
Well, he was with him for quite a few. the thing is that they're channeling what they did back then. Porky's the straight man, Daffy is the mischief maker.
Mm-hmm.
But after a while, that kind of just stopped when the later directors started using Daffy more often. Again, that was a very common trope we saw in Clampett cartoons. Baby Bottleneck is the one that always comes to mind when I think about it. Oh my God, I'm blanking on the name. The one where they're trapped in the hotel and the manager won't leave because they can't pay their bill. That's a classic.
Yeah. And they Tarzan out of there.
Yeah, great bit. But then you got later shorts, especially with Chuck Jones, who when he got a hold of Daffy, he and Frisk Freleng started pairing Daffy more with Bugs. And that's more where you got the jealous, greedy Daffy that so many people recognize a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting to think that these animators are never going to do that. I don't think they want to channel that version of Daffy. I think they want to keep them strictly as the early, true Daffy, where he got his...
they're doing like an Abbott and Costello with them, too, and they don't seem to want to break them up.
Yeah, again, Daffy and Porky had some amazingly hilarious cartoons together. They always had really great chemistry, and I'm fine having them together. But I'm not going to lie, I kind of miss having Daffy and Bugs together. Yes, having the overly greedy Daffy does get a little old sometimes.
That's the thing. Like I miss like really old Daffy then, because I think you're right, and you're the better historian than I am when it comes to this stuff. But like I remember the classic Daffy cartoon where they're trying to do a brain transplant, and that's just him and the doctor. And do you remember that one with the brain transplant?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's that one. There's him with the caveman and Fido, which is one of my
Daffy
all-time favorites.
Yeah, that's a good one.
There's some that's just Daffy Duck and Elmer Fudd, but they're like really old. Like Daffy Duck says things like, "I do this all through the picture," stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
I may be misremembering, and I think you might be right about this. You more than likely are, that it's the early stuff where Daffy is by himself, and then he was always paired with somebody else, whether it was Bugs or Porky or somebody. Now that I'm thinking about it, but I kind of miss the old, like, Daffy's just a plain old lunatic and he's messing with random people.
Mm-hmm.
The next one. The next set of three, we start with Catastrophe. Boy, this one I remember distinctly, because haven't we all been there where we can't find your keys? I yesterday couldn't find my wallet, which was in my back pocket. Don't get old, people.
Because we've all been there. No, my case is usually, I swear, I can't find it. It's in my purse, but I'm looking in the wrong pocket of my purse, so I don't see it.
Yeah.
I assume it's lost, and they're like, "Did you check your purse?" "Yeah, I checked my purse." "Did you really check your purse?" Dig, 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 go full Mary Poppins. Oh, there it is.
So this one, Porky's trying to get to work, and he can't find his keys, and of course Daffy tries to help him, and he is no help at all. And then it turns out Daffy had the keys all along, or something like that.
We all saw that coming, admit it.
That's right. He borrowed the keys because he wanted to move the car, and he parked the car on the roof. And so it ends with Porky driving off the roof and crashing.
Was admittedly a little interesting that was the way they decided to end it. I mean, we all knew that that Daffy was going to have the keys.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Where it turns out the car's on the roof, I was like, huh, okay, that I admit I did not see coming.
The mid short was Hammer the Rabbit Hole. I forget what happens here.
It's your basic, Elmer is once again chasing Bugs, and then Bugs decides to turn it into a massive game of whack-a-mole.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. The next one was a Taz Solo short, Devil of a Drink, where he's trying to drink water, and this geyser keeps erupting around him, and of course, the geyser sort of takes on a life of its own. And then I think the punchline at the end is, well, at least I'm not thirsty anymore.
Yeah, this was interesting because I don't think we've ever seen a short where Taz has gone solo and just been up against another force of nature.
Mm-hmm.
Taz only made 5 classic cartoons, 4 of which he went up against Bugs. The last one he went up against, well, not the last one, but the 5th one he went up against Daffy. But he has always been a force of nature that the other characters have to contend with. But this time, it's a force of nature versus another force of nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different. But it is also kind of fun because it kind of reminds me of what I used to say about the classic cartoon Duck Amuck. When you take away the visible idea of a antagonist or competition, you are left with just your main character breaking down in pure frustration and losing their shit in an epic way. And that's what we get with this. I
thought this was fun. Because we're used to kind of like my daughter's complaint. We're used to seeing Taz, be the antagonist and then of course get messed up. And it's fun to kind of just to be in that Duck Amuck role to where, it's fun to see Taz innocently enough just trying to get a drink of water and getting messed with. I thought, because he has some really, they gave him some very funny reactions.
Mm-hmm. They did. Not to mention, it's really fun how they were able to give the personality to a freaking geyser of all things. You have all of a sudden the geyser imitating him and just bubbling up and making similar sounds. You have the geyser suddenly deciding, yo, we're going to go sideways and knock you out. And it's fun. It really is.
All right, so the next one only had 2 shorts to it. It was Weaseling In and Time Out, and this is the one where I sent you the text. Let's see if I can find it really quick, because Foghorn Leghorn, I think I've talked in the past, is one of my favorite Looney Tunes characters. I think he's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get that rotten dog, doo-dah, doo-dah. I'm gonna show them he's a fraud. I died laughing at that. That might be the hardest I laughed all season.
I was also really happy to see them bring back the Weasel. He was always a fun character to see show up in the classic cartoons. Especially since the Weasel's a lot of fun because you never know just where on the spectrum Foghorn is going to be the antagonist or to go along with him.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the Weasel shows up and the Weasel is the pure malice of the short. But then you have a couple of times where Foghorn decides to work with the Weasel either to get rid of the dog or basically just distract him so the Weasel doesn't realize, oh yeah, this thing I've been talking to could technically be my lunch.
Right. Yeah, Weasel was always kind of a fun character. Yeah. I always found the Weasel to be amusing, and I like when Foghorn Leghorn and him kind of work together. I like the Weasel better than the Chicken Hawk because the Weasel doesn't usually have any dialogue. He's just kind of a force of nature, a dumb force of nature.
Exactly. No, I really enjoy Henry Hawk as well, although admittedly, as they went on, I don't know, just something about him just stopped being so cute, and some of the things he started saying was like, wow, this kid's kind of a brat.
Yeah, he got obnoxious. That's what I'm saying. Like, the Weasel was always sort of, there was an innocence to him. Like, he's just an animal who's hungry. And he's being manipulated by Foghorn Leghorn in many cases, or he's being manipulated by the dog. Mm-hmm. And so, there have been many a Foghorn Leghorn cartoon where it ends with the Weasel trying, chomping down on Foghorn Leghorn or cooking him or something. And I always found that to be amusing.
Absolutely. And yeah, it is kind of fun that he keeps saying he's trying to use the Weasel to scare the chicken so that the dog gets fired, or so to speak. And in the end, the Weasel finally realizes, oh, wait, you're a chicken. I'll just eat you.
I don't remember Time Out.
I believe that's the one where Wile E. Coyote orders a gun that can actually stop time.
Oh, right, the laser where he keeps the freeze ray, where he keeps freezing the Roadrunner, but it this is a lot of him, like the laser missing and hitting a rock, and then the rock unfreezes to fall on top of him, stuff like that. Yeah,
I did laugh pretty hard at the first time he freezes. He actually uses the ray on the Roadrunner, stops him, and then he just walks right in front of him, and I guess he's expecting for him to just sort of fall to the ground or drop or whatever. But then, of course, he unfreezes him, and the Roadrunner just runs him over. And I actually looked at the screen and said, well, what did you expect to happen, genius?
Wile E. Coyote, super genius.
Famous last words.
Number 25, Bounty Bunny. This is Yosemite Sam as a biker and a bounty hunter. They're kind of doing a Dog the Bounty Hunter thing. And this is classic Bugs Bunny and Sam stuff. Bugs Bunny, I thought there was a really neat joke in here where Bugs is like, but that's not me. That guy has 3 whiskers. I have 2. And Yosemite Sam's like, you're full of shit. And then at the end, they're like, yeah, you brought the wrong guy, and we already had, the real bunny that we were after actually turned himself in, and you see this, like, jacked up, like, Tiny Lister Jr. version of Bugs Bunny, and he has 3 whiskers. And, of course, and they play on, like, a lot of fun stuff. They're like, oh, okay, well, I guess the bounty wasn't for you then. I guess I'll just let you go. He was like, yeah, but what about the kidnapping? And so
yeah,
Sam goes to jail.
it's like, technically you just kidnapped me, didn't he, Sheriff? It does also it does make me also wonder every time I see video of, like Dog the Bounty Hunter and other bounty hunters on their badass Harleys and stuff going after their prey. It's like, so how did they get, if they've only got a motorcycle, how are they getting their prey back to the police station? So I did kind of like that, all of a sudden Sam's got a freaking cage attached to his bike.
I think in many cases in real life, like they'll call a partner and the partner will roll up in a van or something. Mm-hmm. They're not like throwing them in the back of the motorcycle. Here, lean over the seat.
Yeah. Also kind of fun because frankly, I hate to say it, but there is some fun to seeing some cartoons where Bugs gets a good one in, but then the bad guy just wallops him on the head. I like that it keeps the tension a little higher, not to mention it gives Bugs more of a reaction to what is happening to him. So you vote for him a little bit more, I would say. The more we see Bugs get knocked down, the more we want to see him get back up.
For sure. The next one was Underwear, which I don't remember.
I actually don't remember that one either.
Okay. Vendor Bender. Okay, Vendor Bender I remember because this is the one where Porky is trying to get the bag of chips out of the vending machine.
The bag of gorp, as they call it.
Yes, gorp.
Okay, I know that I am the crazy animation historian, but I cannot find a reference to something called gorp in any classic cartoon. So I am just assuming somebody got high, and then somebody came in and said, so what do you think we should call the snack in the short? And they just burped gorp, and they said, okay, yeah, let's do that.
I feel like they've done the gorp thing with Porky before. I could not begin to tell you where or when or anything like that, but I vaguely remember him. Mentioning something about gorp being like a snack of his. I feel like that. So I went to go look up, see if I could find a plot synopsis for Underwear, and I found a wiki, and a lot of them have links, have hyperlinks to some sort of summary. This is one of the few that doesn't. Okay, and it doesn't matter; it's an interstitial, so we'll just move past it. Mm-hmm. But going back to the other thing, yeah, I feel like I've seen the gorp thing before. It might have been in an earlier version of this Looney Tunes, but this is yet another thing where, much like the geyser, some inanimate object takes on a life of its own and screws with one of our heroes. And then at the end, the punchline is Daffy ends up with the gorp.
It reminded me, actually, wow, we're going back to Tiny Toons a lot in this episode. There is a Tiny Toon short where Hampton, who is supposed to be the younger interpretation of Porky, is gifted a smart locker. Mm-hmm. But he accidentally locks the code book in the locker, and then he can't open it, and he can't open it during lunch, and obviously he's a pig, he wants his lunch, and he's just going absolutely insane trying to break this stupid thing open so he can get his food. So it very much reminded me of that, and I'm glad they did take it a little bit further. We have seen so many shorts where somebody is at a vending machine or something that takes a dollar bill, and no matter what you do, the machine just will not read the dollar bill. Yeah, I think we can all name at least one cartoon or TV show or even movie where we've seen that. But then they go further with Porky pulling out all the change in his pockets, which looks like a decent amount of coinage, and he keeps putting all of that in, and the machine keeps saying insufficient funds.
It's funny. They sometimes with Looney Tunes, they're so over the top and silly. There's no relatability to it. It's just pure comedy. But occasionally, like, they take like a real thing that people can relate to and just play it up for laughs. And this is one of them, because boy, have I been there with vending machines.
Oh yeah, how many of us have been on break, just desperately want to get a bag of chips or a candy bar or a soda or something, and we just end up with the one machine that has decided it's going to go all Skynet on us.
Yeah. You put your dollar in there. It's a flat, crisp, clean dollar, and it's like, and it just keeps rejecting it. It's like, why won't you take my money? Your money's no good here, sir. Yes, but I want a soda.
But no matter if you end up putting your coins into there, it keeps spitting them out at the bottom. It's like, these are good, solid coins. Why won't you take them?
Right. I swear to God, these aren't loonies and toonies. This is American money. Like, nope.
Ba-dum-bum.
All right.
I remember we had a vending machine when I worked at KCTV5 that did that. Anytime you put in a bunch of change, it would spit out a bunch of dimes and nickels, and it's like, what the hell? Are you quarter only? Are you that much of an elitist?
The next series of 3 here, we have Mallard Practice, Mouse, and Born to be Wily. Mallard Practice, I barely remember.
That one, Elmer gets a speeding ticket for $30, and he walks in and he goes, it's $30, I'll pay it. And he's getting ready to pay it when Daffy comes in saying he's his lawyer.
Right. This is hilarious, this one. Now that you've piqued my memory, this is so funny because this whole defense is he couldn't have been speeding when he was murdering people.
Pretty much. That's the thing, is that it's hilarious when it starts, but this they get... I'm just going to say, it's considering how your son reacted to that one Mickey Mouse cartoon where he thought Mortimer was killed. I can't believe this one didn't make him cry.
Yeah, I don't know if they just weren't paying that close attention to it, or if they were like, it was just funny to see Daffy messing with Elmer Fudd. But yeah, the whole setup to this is Daffy gets Elmer out of the speeding ticket by associating him with various other crimes that he still didn't commit either. But he sets him up on all these things, and so he ends up going to prison for life or getting the electric chair or something like that. I can't remember which one it is.
He's on the electric chair. And then, but the big punchline is Daffy's business card says, "With me, you'll never pay any fines." And Elmer's being dragged down. Daffy's like, "Well, you're not paying any fines."
Yeah,
so I was right.
So this is where again they pair up Daffy with somebody else, and it works here. Daffy messing with Elmer Fudd's always funny. And it's so funny because we're always used to seeing Elmer Fudd as the hunter, somebody who's pursuing Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck, and so when he gets comeuppance in the end, it's like, well, it's deserved because he was messing with the wildlife. And this one, Elmer did nothing wrong. He's like, I'll just pay the speeding ticket, and it's like Daffy, who's this force of chaotic force of nature, just comes in. He makes the situation infinitely worse, and it's funny to me, but it's like, wow, Elmer didn't deserve any of that.
Not to mention, it's a little just bizarre how Daffy suddenly shows up as the lawyer. If you don't catch the title Mallard Practice, you wouldn't even realize that this is going to be a Daffy Duck short.
Mm-hmm.
Because I hate to say it, so I didn't always catch the titles of the episodes. And yeah, when I saw, and then it was just like, whoa, wait, where did Daffy come from?
The next one is Mouse, which go ahead.
No, that's the one where they started doing some interim shorts with Beaky Buzzard, another classic character who did really. I think he only showed up in 2 shorts actually. One where he goes against bugs, and the other one where he's just trying to bring back some random food to his mom.
My mama done told me to bring something for dinner.
Yeah, exactly. So now we have a couple of interim shorts with him flying and then going, I think I spotted a snack. Yuck. And then obviously things go wrong.
Is this the one where he tries to bite the snake and the snake swallows him, but then the snake's like, what the hell? Because of course he swallowed him whole and he started to fly away inside the snake.
No, that's a different one.
Okay.
I barely remember the mouse one. I know he's going after a mouse, but I can't remember exactly what happens. So they're cute, but not exactly that memorable. But again, at least they're trying some different interims. I think we complained early on that some of the interims were getting a little too copy and paste. Not to mention that we knew they were going to run out of gags with Marvin the Martian planting the damn flag.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see them actually expanding out and saying, okay, what other characters can we have interim gags with?
The next one, Born to be Wile-E. This is our second motorcycle bit of the season.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh, okay, apparently somebody really likes motorcycles. Good to know.
So he's just on a motorcycle, and he's trying to catch the Roadrunner, and hilarity ensues.
Hilarity followed by the worst pun ever. Wile-E gets run over and smacked after his bike falls apart, and he holds up a sign and says, that was wheelie bad.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
But, yeah, I just remember watching going, God, you guys are so above that. Jesus.
You know what they could have used to help them write a better gag? They could have used Grammarly, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Why don't you tell us more?
There you go. Now you're hitting the right pitch. For you listeners of TV Party Tonight on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network on W2M, Grammarly is offering a free download of the Grammarly software. Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2M Network. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2M Network to download Grammarly for free. All right. The next set, this one I remember distinctly. This is Raging Granny. So what's hilarious to me about Raging Granny is that all of her boxing matches, she's still in the dress. She never wears shorts. It's just her in a dress and boxing gloves.
Yeah. Yeah, again, this is something we've actually seen in a couple of different shorts where you have a character who's a boxer or a fighter of some kind. It's just like, just hit the bell and all of a sudden, full muscle memory.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, the setup here is that she used to be a boxer, and then if she hears the bell, she goes right into action. And she was a championship boxer. She's Mike Tyson, basically. And so every time Sylvester tries to get at Tweety, Tweety just rings the bell, and Granny gets him and beats the shit out of him. This is rinse repeat for the 3 or 4 minutes this cartoon takes place. It made me laugh, but that's only because the idea of an old woman beating up a cat to me was funny.
Yeah, pretty much. Again, it's a very classic staple of the shorts where Sylvester has to find some way to get Tweety out of there without him hitting an alarm or pulling a cord or waking someone up. It's been done before, but it is still kind of funny just to see Granny of all characters just suddenly, go like full Mike Tyson on Sylvester.
Which one was famous?
I don't remember the bulk of it, but that's the one where Daffy's a psychic, and Porky says he wants to be famous someday, and Daffy's looking at him to see if he's ever going to be famous, but I don't remember a lot of it, so it's...
Yeah, this one didn't stay with me. The next one was Spare Me. Okay, this is the one where Daffy and Porky are traveling, and they catch a flat, and the whole thing is Porky trying to get Daffy to change the tire, and Daffy, of course, can't do anything without it being just a disaster. At one point, they lose the spare tire and they have to do something else. I forget how this whole thing gets resolved, but it's a lot of Porky damn near wanting to kill Daffy because they just need to change the tire and he can't do anything without it being a disaster.
It is kind of funny though, because in the end, Porky patches the tire by sewing on a freaking patch.
Right.
And he goes, "There, this car's ready to roll." He does we all know what's happening. He leans against the car. He accidentally pushes it. It lands on a railroad track, and suddenly all along comes the fastest freaking bullet train in the history of mankind to smack that car into itty bitty pieces. But the ending, it's a cute ending because Porky's like, "Well, I guess we got to walk." Dash says, "I got a better idea," and it ends with Daffy kind of bouncing on the tire while holding Porky, and they're sort of using that to get to their next destination. And Daffy goes, "Boy, nothing like a nice drive in the country, right?" And they're happy, and it's a cute ending. I remember watching going, it's kind of rare to actually see an episode where they end that saccharine, and it's kind of nice.
I would agree with that. All right. Let's talk about it. Marv attacks.
You have the floor, my dear.
So, Marvin the Martian, who has been always has been motivated to blow up the Earth with his P-32 space modulator, which is a stick of dynamite.
236 explosive space modulator.
And the whole reason why he wants to blow up the Earth is because it blocks his view of Venus, if I remember correctly. So if he isn't trying to blow it up, he's trying to conquer it. Okay? That's what Marvin does. And for some odd reason, my 10-year-old daughter, who was able to have a halfway decent conversation about the Demon Slayer movie, and she's able to give various opinions on various movies, and, she's starting to turn into a little movie critic. Growing up in this house, how could you not? Manages to, have cognitive dissonance with what Marvin's doing, and just sees Bugs Bunny thwarting Marvin at every turn, like he does, like he's done to the Magician, like he's done to Cooks, like he's done to Elmer, like he's done to Taz, like he's done to Yosemite Sam. Everyone that comes in contact with Bugs Bunny just about has gotten their comeuppance for whatever evil thing they're trying to do, either to Bugs or around Bugs. And yet, my daughter's interpretation of Marv attacks was that Marvin wasn't doing anything wrong. And Marvin wasn't doing anything wrong. And yet, Bugs Bunny thwarting him at every turn was Bugs Bunny disrespecting Marvin the Martian. Children are interesting. Even my son was like, he was trying to blow up the Earth. What'd you want him to do? That was kind of what I said to her. I'm just like, what would you want Marvin to win? And she was like, I just feel like Marvin deserves more respect. So apparently, and maybe you can speak to the culture surrounding this, my daughter has become one of those Marvin the Martian stans.
Your daughter has become an SJW.
Listen, when you're a 10-year-old child, you can afford to be an SJW. It's fine.
Okay. If your daughter really wants to get a perspective on Bugs not showing his opponents respect, you need to show her Bob Clampett Bugs Bunny shorts. Specifically the ones where Bugs is going up against Fat Elmer.
Mm-hmm.
Because those were made with Bugs to be the mischief maker, the trickster, the Loki, as it were.
Yeah, like the one where Fat Elmer is like digging for gold, and and there's no reason for Bugs Bunny to interact with him, but he sees him and he's like, "Oh, I'm just going to mess with this guy because he's a fat idiot."
There's another one where Elmer goes to a campsite. He just happens to make the mistake of putting his campsite right next to Bugs' hole, and Bugs just decides that's the one where he goes, "I do this kind of stuff to him all through the picture."
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the ones where Bugs he's not the antagonist. Well, he is the antagonist if you actually break it down, but he is the trickster. And that was the way they wrote him for the longest time, that he didn't wait for confrontation. He wanted to force rule, and he loved it. So those are the ones that you're darn need to see to get a better understanding of, no, Bugs is not showing disrespect to Marvin the Martian. Bugs is taking on an alien threat, invaded Earth.
I'm going to take another swing at this when I talk to...
How heavy of a... I was saying, you got to wonder, how heavy of a sleeper is Bugs that he was able to sleep through the whole Martian invasion?
All right, my daughter and her idiosyncrasies aside, what did you think of Marv Attack? Since now we're finally seeing Marvin the Martian in a full short instead of an interstitial.
That I absolutely loved. Again, I mentioned this earlier, I wanted to see Marvin come back as a full antagonist. Those who have listened to us talk about Looney Tunes in the past, you know Marvin the Martian is one of my all-time favorite characters. I love his shorts. He always been my dad's got a freaking Marvin the Martian tattoo in my honor. And I was so happy to see him come back and do this. Not to mention, I love the ending where Bugs finally just wears him down, and Marvin goes, "Fine, I give up. Earth is yours. I'm leaving." And Bugs says, "No, you got to clean up this mess you made first."
Right.
It breaks off the broom handle on the top of Marvin's helmet. It forces him to go clean. I love it.
So I'm a big fan of Sam the Sheepdog and Wile E. Coyote, or as they like to call themselves, Sam and Ralph. Yeah, I like to do that when I'm walking in and out of work.
Wolf. That is not Wile E. Coyote. That is Ralph the Wolf. They're two totally different characters.
If you say so.
Yeah, Ralph has a red nose. Wile E. has a black nose. Well, of all the people you asked that, you really think I'm not going to have an answer?
No, I believe you. I just, given the major difference between the two, besides who they're interacting with, one's interacting solely with Roadrunner and the occasional Bugs Bunny cartoon, and then the other one is interacting with Sam the Sheepdog, and maybe occasionally Foghorn Leghorn. I've never noticed a significant difference between, except that one talks and the other one doesn't. So I believe you that they're two different characters, but that is not readily apparent unless, you do research.
Again, have you forgotten who you're talking to? Of course I search.
No, I get that, and I get that that's how you know that. But little old me who has not done the Wile E. Coyote, Ralph Wolf research. Hang on, Sugar, get down. And for the first time ever on a podcast, I have to yell at my dog.
Welcome to the trifecta. Cleo, get back inside.
Anyway, so this is a wolf in sheep's clothing, and this is a bit where Ralph the wolf puts on a sheep costume like he does, and then of course he can't get out of it.
Yeah, anyone ever told you when you say wolf, you sound like you're just saying woof?
That's my first of all, that's my New York accent, and it's not really an accent. That's the way God intended everyone to talk. Everyone else just gets it wrong.
Sure, go have a bottle of Chianti.
And a nice Chianti. Anyway, wolfa. Okay. So Ralph.
I was looking at my phone now, like, who's barking?
Ralph puts on the sheep outfit, and of course he can't get out of it, and then the farmer is like, "Oh, you're too bushy, we need to shave you down," and so now he's nude. I laughed at that. I thought it was funny.
Now, I agree. I absolutely love the Sam and Ralph shorts. There's one in particular that I actually consider to be some of Chuck Jones' best directing in a short. It's from a short called, I believe it's called A Sheep in the Deep. Mm-hmm. Where Sam was about to just drop Ralph off a cliff, and then the lunch whistle goes off, and they stop, and he pulls him back onto the cliff, and they go and eat lunch. They share a cup of coffee. They have a smoke break. They're clearly all nice and cordial to one another. And then when the whistle blows, again signaling that lunch is over, they go right back, and he throws him off the cliff.
Yeah.
I love this idea that these two creatures are just on a schedule, and that when the whistle blows and they're off work, they're friendly, and they're just like, it's just the job, whatever, it's no big deal. And it's so funny. Although it was a little weird that this is, I think, the first one where they talk to each other on the work shift. Because usually it's the whistle blows and they don't say a word.
Right. They're just slurping coffee and eating their sandwiches.
Yeah, anytime you've heard them talk before, it's always been, morning, Ralph, morning, Sam, goodbye, Ralph, bye, Sam. Or just a few little things like that. This is the first time that Ralph actually speaks to Sam while they're on the job, because he's hiding under a fake patch of grass to try to get at the sheep. But then Sam comes in with golf clubs, and he's trying to. He basically puts the tee and the golf ball on freaking Ralph's head. And I'm sorry, I think we all like squirmed a little bit when he pushed that thing. I was like, ouchie. And he keeps, essentially, the dog is going to make a freaking divot, in the ground. And then Ralph's just like, oh my God, I can't take this. Do you not know how to, use a club? And he shows him how to properly hit the ball. And it's funny, but again, it's like, wait, you're not supposed to talk. So.
All right, so the next one is High Speed Hair. Remind me what this one was about.
It's the gremlin.
Ah, yes. Okay, yeah. This is the bit where Bugs Bunny is interested in buying a Tesla, and the gremlin messes it up. All right, so I know, this is, if you came on this podcast for nothing else, this is what you came here to talk about. You have notes upon notes in the whole history of the gremlin, so have at it. Educate us.
Yes, the gremlin first appeared in a short called Falling Hair. It is widely considered to be one of the absolute best pieces from Bob Clampett's. It is one of the few where Bugs really gets his ass handed to. Clampett had an interesting style with his animation. I think I've talked about this before when we talked about the Cecil Turtle shorts, in that when Clampett made a Bugs Bunny cartoon, often he didn't let Bugs win. Mm-hmm. Bugs was, and that was the case here. This was a great short where Bugs...
So what you're saying is I need to get my daughter an entire, DVD of just Clampett Bugs Bunny.
Pretty much. For the love of God, Cleo, get back inside. Sorry, our gate's a little busted, and Cleo is now starting to figure out, oh, hey, maybe I can escape through here. Inside you. But yes, it is one of the absolute best Bob Clampett Bugs Bunny shorts. Not to mention, it's also well known for having probably one of the best drawings known of Bugs when he's just sitting on the bomb reading his book. That was actually drawn by Bob McKimson, who started out as an animator for Clampett's unit. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, when I saw they were bringing the gremlin back, I'm like, yes, but I'm not going to lie, I was a little disappointed in this short, because while the idea of a self-driving car being sabotaged and Bugs getting to experience that is funny, it's practically copy and paste from Falling Hair, down to the ending.
Yeah, the car runs out of gas, and so it stops, short midair.
Runs out of gas or the electric battery dies. I didn't really get the total thing, but yeah, even the fact that they're falling and Bugs is freaking out with the gremlin just nonchalantly standing there. It's like, again, that's exactly what happened in Falling Hair.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if you've never seen the very famous gremlin episode Falling Hair, this is funny, but if you have and you've seen it recently, you're like, oh, well, this is kind of a cut and paste job. This is, like you said, I don't mean to be repeating every single thing you just said, but this is a reusing of the same tired gags over and over and over again, which my kids were enjoying because they've never seen the Gremlin one, or if they did, they just didn't remember it. But me, I was like, oh, this is funny, but this is also very, very too familiar.
Exactly. I mean, it was funny. I hate to say it was mostly funny up until they went off the cliff. Because even though those earlier gags were very cut and paste, they were still funny. But then when they went off the cliff and you knew exactly where this was going, it's like, wait a minute. You know, it could have been so much better. And maybe the director thought he was doing an homage to Falling Hair. I don't know, but it really did feel just a little lazy at the end.
Yeah. The next one is Rattlesnake. We talked about that earlier. That's the one where the snake swallows the buzzard, and then he flies away, and the snake is looking nonplussed.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what was Nutty Devil?
Taz decides he wants a coconut. Well, he wants thirsty again, and he wants coconut water.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where there is a classic Chuck Jones cartoon. Well, it's like, Cleo, stop that. There's a classic Chuck Jones cartoon called Much Ado About Nutting, which features a squirrel going to a nut stand in New York and thinking he's going to get nuts, but then he steals a freaking coconut and he can't get it open. And I'm again, there's parallels to this. The humor in it is just suddenly from a quick cut montage of Taz trying every conceivable option to break the coconut open.
Right. Okay. And this is basically a kind of a rehashing of the same gimmick with the geyser.
Yeah, although I think it does have actually the funnier ending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he just gives up and he goes to the vending machine, right?
Yeah. Just like there was a vending machine there the whole time.
Well, it's better when you can get it directly from the fruit.
I'll take your word for it. I'm not a huge fan of coconuts.
More of a general rule. All right. The next one is Picture Perfect. All right, so do you have any notes on Petunia Pig? Like, what's her story?
Petunia only appeared in a couple of shorts back in the golden days of Looney Tunes and was never actually given her own starring feature. She only appeared as assistants to Porky, either as a love interest or a friend or whatever. So this is the first time she's actually given, like, she doesn't even really have a character, so to speak. I mean, I think she did in her very first starring role, which has Porky proposing marriage to her, and she's kind of a spiteful bitch in it.
I vaguely remember this.
That's the one where she kind of won't even open the door for him until she sees that he's got chocolates.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, it's an old black and white one. But other than that, she doesn't really have a personality. She's just the female character next to Porky. You know, Porky does everything else. This is the first time we've ever actually seen her do something without any other role, actually moving from supporting character to feature character, and they give her kind of a quirky hobby. She's a photography enthusiast, I guess, and she wants to take a picture to fill a tiny little hole on her mantle, which is completely covered in photos. And she tries to take a picture of a very cute little squirrel, but everything goes wrong.
Yeah, every time she tries to take the picture, she gets damaged in some way. And so by the end of it, she's like in a full body cast, and she has a black eye, and she's missing teeth, and she's like, but she has the picture of the squirrel finally, and she's like, worth it.
It's a picture because she took it while she was sneezing because the squirrel was tickling her nose with its tail.
Yeah, this one was just because she's such a psycho. This one was a little bizarre to watch. Also, like, my kids kept asking me, like, what's her relationship to Porky? And I'm like, I have no idea. I barely have ever seen this character. The other thing is, she felt very Elmira-ish to me, where, you know, she's so animal obsessed that, you know, to the exclusion of all else, including her own health. You know, and while Elmira was more of a torturer, Petunia has a lot of the same quirks, but, you know, she ends up hurting herself and not others the way Elmira did. And it was like, yeah, I mean, it was funny, like, when I'm watching it, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, I don't love this one.
Not to mention, they decided to give her an accent. Was that like a New Yorker accent or a Boston accent or something? It was kind of hard to place.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess they might have been going for like an old like cutesy kind of like Shirley Temple kind of a thing.
Maybe. Again, I'm not against them going from different Looney Tunes characters. In fact, I distinctly remember in the first review of this season that we did way back when, one of the things we both agreed on was we said we want to see more characters.
Yeah, I'm fine with them using Petunia. Giving her that personality I thought was weird.
Agreed. What do you think about the idea of them having her as the feature character instead of making her supporting? What did you think of that?
I mean, I think with this platform, experimentation's a good idea. I'm not against it. I think giving characters an opportunity to you never know if you're going to have a hit on your hands unless you try. And considering this is a streaming service that needs content, why not take up some time with some other characters? It's not like you have a finite amount of space. You have an infinite amount of space. You can do as many of these as you want. I mean, Warner Brothers owns this property. They can do as much of this as they can find people to do it. So I'm okay with it. I experiment, try new things. You never know when you're going to have a hit on your hands.
Exactly. And yes, we do still want to see more characters. Getting to see Beaky Buzzard, Sam and Ralph, Petunia, the Gremlin, Pete Puma. This is what we want.
Absolutely.
This is what we wanted when they first started releasing these shorts. Keep it up, guys. Keep bringing in more characters. We love seeing callbacks to these classics that we loved as kids.
What was Grappling Hook?
It was a Sylvester and Tweety mid-gag.
Okay.
Those always start the same. Sylvester's hungry. He sees Tweety on the top of a telephone pole, and he tries to find a way to get him down this way. This time he tried to get him down with a grappling hook.
Okay. Swoop-de-Doo. I don't remember that one either.
The hawk suit. Wile E.
Okay.
Coyote in the hawk suit.
All right. This next one I remember
Wile he's having trouble catching the Roadrunner. He witnesses a hawk, eagle, some kind of bird of prey, I don't know, swoop down and get a snake. So he buys a fully functioning hawk costume. And it's going to sound weird, but the thing about this episode I remember the most was the music. Because when they kept using Ride of the Valkyries, but there's a great bit where right before he's about to jump off the cliff for the first time in the hawk suit, it's a very dopey version of Ride of the Valkyries. And it made me laugh so hard. So I love little touches like that. I remember watching classic cartoons, and if you actually buy the Golden Collection, you can get commentary, and there's a couple of commentaries done by musicians, and they'll talk about the themes and the music that are used in various cartoons, and I really appreciate that, because then you realize just all of the little details that go into a scene like that.
So this next one I remember distinctly. This is Pain to Wash. And this is the one where they're window washers. And, of course, Daffy is complaining because the building is so big, it goes into space.
And he wants to take a lunch break.
Yeah, he wants to take a lunch break. And so it's resolved when basically, Porky notices that when Daffy talks, he spits a lot. And so he just aggravates Daffy to where he goes on this epic rant. And while he's doing that, he smashes his face into the window, and they wash the whole building, and they can finally have lunch. And I'm like, oh, this is borderline gross, but it's still funny.
It's better than street gum. Just keep telling yourself that.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. I'll start throwing up on the air again. Last two. Which one was Highwire?
That was another Sylvester Tweety telephone gag.
Okay. And then lastly, Saddle Sore. Okay. I remember this one distinctly because I thought that I love the instructional cartoons. Like we talked about that with Goofy, how to set up a VCR or entertainment center, how to ski, how to this, how to that. And this is how to put a saddle on a horse with Yosemite Sam giving the lesson. And I'm like, well, that's a fun way to use Yosemite Sam.
I agree. Although the ending, I did not think they were going to go the way they went. because we get a bit where Sam decides to put on a horse costume to try to get close. And all of a sudden, the horse turns into freaking Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah, can we talk about that for a second? Because I complained about this in the chat. So we have the one New York Times writer, not to bring up this subject again, but we have the one New York Times...
Oh, God, I thought this was buried, but no, it'll never go away.
And then let's talk about the Snow White, right? No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to really do that.
No, I'm not talking about the Snow White controversy. I want that author who wrote about that in San Francisco to die.
Well, we shouldn't wish death on people, but... so we have the author, we have the editorial writer who wrote about consent and, and talked about how Pepe Le Pew Pepe Le Pew adds to rape culture and so Warner Brothers sort of had already taken Pepe Le Pew out of Space Jam. It wasn't a one-to-one causal thing. That was done well before this guy ever wrote this article, and I think he had been responding to something else. It was like, in addition to this other thing people are talking about, Pepe Le Pew stinks too. Okay, got it. And so we had this long conversation about how Pepe Le Pew is based on... who is the historical figure that he was based on?
Charles Boyer in the film Algiers.
Yeah. So Pepe Le Pew is this, is based on this romantic type, and the gag is that he would probably make the lady swoon, and he would get away with it, being a Don Juan type character, if he only hadn't been a stinky skunk. And so that's that's the conversation that we had about this. But hey, it's no matter how you frame it, it's still a guy forcibly kissing a girl who doesn't want to be kissed for whatever her reasons are, and this is bad, and we shouldn't do it. Okay. We're past the point where I'm arguing about that anymore. Don't kiss girls that don't want to be kissed. Don't have cartoons kissing cartoon girls that don't want to be kissed. We got it. Turn page. And then you have Warner Brothers who's like, we're not going to do any Pepe Le Pew Looney Tunes cartoons because this is a hot button thing and we don't want to offend people. Okay, with you so far. Now let's have a horse who's forcing himself on Yosemite Sam. And I'm like, I have to find a line that I sent to you guys, but I'm like, I don't understand how, knowing what they know, how this one made it to air, because they had plenty of time with the Pepe Le Pew controversy to be like, okay, we see that we let this one go, this one got past editing, and you guys did it anyway, but let's not show this one because you can't say no Pepe Le Pew, have the horse do literally the same thing, and that be okay. And I'm actually surprised no one's complained about this yet. I guess because the horse isn't a famous character, but still, what was your take on this?
Admittedly, we get the end where the horses chase him all over the place, and Sam basically finally rips the costume. I was like, I'm not a horse, I'm a man. I thought we were going to go one of two ways. One, I thought we were going to go the Some Like It Hot reference where the horse says, well, nobody's perfect, and continues to chase him. Mm-hmm. But then the horse says, well, I have been lying as well. I am not a horse. And he starts with him. And I could have sworn in that nanosecond it was going to be Pepe underneath the costume. I was like, they found a way to work him in. This is how it's going to work. Yes, Cleo, I know. And it's a cactus. It's an anthropomorphic cactus that hugs Sam. And I'm going, and I hate to say it, but I would actually be willing to bet that originally was Pepe Le Pew. And they had to edit it at the last minute for it to be the cactus. Because the more there is a running gag about Sam getting slammed into a cactus, which, as you do in the desert cartoons. But it was so random. It really would not surprise me if that's the way they had originally planned it. And they had to fix it at the last minute.
You're probably right about that. That was probably Pepe Le Pew, and they were like, nope, get Pepe out of there. But that's the thing. Weirdly, how do you okay the gag, which is that's the whole problem in the first place? It doesn't make it any less offensive if you're offended by that sort of thing, if you catch my meaning. I don't care. I've said that publicly. We talked about that when we talked about the Pepe Le Pew thing on the SpongeBob podcast. But, if you are offended by Pepe Le Pew, it doesn't make a difference if it's Pepe, a cactus, or a horse. It's all doing the same thing. It's all the character being sexually assaulted because they did not give consent. I Like, I don't want to be the one that makes a big deal about it. I'm just saying, like, I just want there to be some internal consistency. Like, if you're going to say we can't do Pepe Le Pew, then just don't do those jokes. Scrap that cartoon. Tell them, like, we get it. It's funny. The world is a sensitive, stupid place right now, our stupid culture, and you can't do it. Don't be like, well, it's not the stupid skunk that everyone hates, so I guess it's fine. That made no sense to me.
Exactly. I mean, the short itself is funny.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Sam gets banged up trying to get this wild horse. And I'm not going to lie, you know, we've talked about how we both still enjoy Pepe Le Pew cartoons. And I was not offended when the horse suddenly turned into Don Juan. In fact, there's a really funny bit where he's like, you know, I will take care of you and I will provide for you. And Sam actually goes, well, what if I want a career? I was like, that's fun. And then he runs off and the horse goes, well, we can discuss it. I love that. That was actually really funny.
That is really funny. And like I said, I don't want people to just take away from this as, oh, Mark didn't want the horse thing. Oh, no, I want Pepe Le Pew back, and I want the horse, and I think all this stuff is funny. But if you're not going to do Pepe Le Pew, then you can't do the horse thing either. It's the same thing.
Absolutely.
All right. So that's it. That was 31C. That's a wrap up for season 1D. Overall, what did you think of this collection of shorts?
They are showing a lot of improvement. When we first started reviewing this, we talked about things that we wanted to see, things we thought they needed to cut down on, things we thought were funny, things that we said were not funny. And they're doing everything that we said we wanted to see. We said we want to see more characters. They gave that to us. We said we want to see a variety of the interim gags. They're giving that to us. You know, we said we want to see humor more akin to the classic cartoons. We got that. And It really makes me happy to say it's like these guys are they're listening to the fans.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying these. They're little chunks. You know, it's not a hard binge. Yeah, I like watching them with my kids, and you're right. I think they're getting better. I think they're improving. I think, bringing in different characters and really breaking it up. That's what it's like you said. That's what we wanted. We wanted variety. We're getting variety. I think they're doing a good job of using modernity in the setting, but not overplaying the modernity to where it doesn't feel like a classic cartoon anymore.
Not to mention, one of the things that I'm really glad they cut after the first part of the season, they are going easy on showing human characters.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of my biggest complaints was that the human characters looked like they were ripped out of the John Kay sketchbook. For those who not know, that means they look like they were from an early season of Ren and Stimpy.
Gotcha.
The jelly bean eyes and the bulbous nose and the thick necks. I'm really glad to see that they're sticking to more other anthropomorphic animal characters. That the animators just cannot make humans look good.
All right, so we'll wrap there for now. Early this morning, this being Cinco de Mayo as we're recording this, we re-aired our Metal Hammer of Doom where we reviewed Brujeria, Viva Presidente Trump, because I'm funny like that, and Pacho Atzla. So why not celebrate this day of Mexican heritage and whatnot with a Brujeria review, right?
And nothing like into a bunch of white guys with absolutely no Mexican heritage whatsoever talk about that on a day where people just use the celebration as an excuse to get blind, stinking drunk.
Exactly. Tonight we are reviewing Pennyworth Season 2. Jesse dropped another Unspoken Issues. That's, I believe it's Robin is the one that they did. That's up in the archives now. Yesterday was May the 4th. Hey, May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you.
So to celebrate, we aired the review of Rogue One that we did when that movie came out. Plus myself, Sean Comer, and Jesse Starcher reviewed Anna Meneguchi, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the video game soundtrack. Sean was on source material. we looked at the first 2 books of Scott Pilgrim, the Scott Pilgrim series, Scott Pilgrim's Precious Little Life, and Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Tomorrow, Alexis will be back. We're going to review The Mitchells versus the Machines. Before that, myself and Chris Bailey will review AEW Blood and Guts. And then in the evening, myself and Sean Comer will finally review Scott Pilgrim versus the World on its 10th anniversary re-release into theaters. On Friday, we'll have our re-airing of our review of Days of Future Past. On Saturday is our re-airing of Long Road to Ruin, the Twilight Saga, which my wife was on. And then on Sunday, the one Jessica Jones review that didn't make this particular podcast feed, Season 1, our review of that will be re-aired. So that you have all 3 of our reviews of Jessica Jones. And we're going to slowly but surely try to complete the sets of shows that we did between Blog Talk Radio, my own solo feed, and then finally being a part, 100% part of W2M. So we're slowly but surely filling in a lot of gaps on things. It's just taking time. I mean, that was 5-6 years of content that just didn't make it over here. It was before the great content share of 2017. So, more archive shows are coming. And next week, Alexis Hejna will be joining me and Ben Colon. We're going to be talking about one of the comics that influenced the new Falcon and Winter Soldier show, Truth, Red, White, and Black. Myself and Chris Bailey and Pat Mullen will be reviewing WrestleMania 2. We'll have a Damn You Hollywood for Wrath of Man. Evan Bevins will be making an appearance on source material for doing Deadpool the Duck. May 12th is the Superblog team-up. We'll have 2 entries from the Radulich Broadcasting Network. One's A Long Road to Ruin for the Eddie Murphy Dr. Dolittle movies, and the other will be from Metal Hammer of Doom, the seminal Motley Crue hit, platinum-selling hit, Dr. Feelgood. Get it? Dr. Dolittle, Dr. Feelgood? Because the Doctor is in. That's the theme. On the Metal Hammer of Doom, Sean Comer and Jesse Starcher and I will be doing our second Weezer album for this year. This one is Van Weezer. And then everybody on Earth is joining me in the evening time on Thursday to discuss Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Everybody on Earth loved it except for Robert Winfrey, and he'll tell you why it stinks. So tune in for that, because that ought to be fun. Friday the 14th, Robert and I will be reviewing Woman in the Window. Also, Spiral hits theaters, and we'll be re-releasing our Long Road to Ruin for Saw Parts 1 and 2 to celebrate that. And then on Saturday the 15th, Jesse's What If the Alien Costume Had Possessed Spider-Man. So that's all the content, past, present, and future, we've got going on. Go ahead, Alexis, and you can go ahead and do your plugs and talk about the upcoming trivia show.
That's right. This Saturday, we're going to be recording our very first trivia show here for the Radulich Broadcasting Network. It is called Tripped Up Trivia. Really excited for this. The theme is going to be sci-fi in honor, of course, of May the 4th. We're going to be recording. We've got some fun guests who are going to be joining in. It's going to be interesting. This is our first time doing a trivia contest, so we're going to kind of experiment with it, see where we want to go with the future shows. When we record next month, we will be discussing female superheroes. This is in honor, of course, of the Black Widow film coming out. And after that, in July, in honor of Space Jam: A New Legacy, we're going to be talking about Warner Brothers animation. To those who are interested in participating, we're always looking for new contestants. So, hey, go ahead and give us a contact on Facebook or Twitter. Let us know if you're interested in playing. We will set something up.
What are you listening to these days? When you're at work and you're making new jewelry and whatnot, you're putting out new pieces, what kind of music do you listen to?
I have a couple of different playlists that I like to go through. There's a song by Fitz and the Tantrums that came out a while ago called The Walker that I could listen to forever on repeat. I love it.
Fitz and the Tantrums? Well, what are Fitz and the Tantrums?
It's just a band name.
But what kind of music?
I guess you'd call it alternative rock. I'll send you the link if you want later, maybe through Amazon Music.
Yeah, that's where I was headed with all this. So you mentioned Fitz and the Tantrums, and I went to see if they're on Amazon Music, and they are. Their album "Picking Up the Pieces," pick up Pick up the broken pieces. I don't know if that's a song or not, but it's probably not.
No,
it's a hardcore band. But yes, Fitz and the Tantrums is on AmazonMusic.com, and if you would like to check out Fitz and the Tantrums or any other band that we have talked about or will be talking about on the Metal Hammer of Doom, or just anything that tickles fancy, you should use our link in the description, getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. That's getamazonmusic.com/W2M network, and you can have yourself a fit and tantrum looking at all the free music that you can stream. You can get a free 30 days to check out all the music you want. And with that out of the way, that wraps us up for this evening. If you're looking to hear more of Alexis, like I said, she'll be back tomorrow for our review of The Mitchells vs. the Machines, which people are loving, by the way. It's getting extremely high marks, so that'll be a fun conversation to have. Until then, for Alexis Hejna, I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.